Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of the Everyday Adventure Podcast. How's it going, Megan?
I'm good. And
You're a little scratchy.
Yeah, I don't have a voice, but don't hold it against me.
Hey, I won't. I think it's good to spice it up a little bit on the podcast sometimes.
Yeah.
People just hear our voices and they're like, I wish one of them would lose it so I could hear a scratchier version of it.
Oh, it's not because they don't want to listen to us anymore?
No.
Okay.
No, I think it's a good thing. It's a good way to bring something new to the podcast. So
Okay, good. I'm just trying to try new things and
yeah,
make this more fun. So
we did. If you're a watcher, if you're a viewer, we pivoted the chairs a little bit. If you were watching in the beginning, we had it set up like this. The bookshelf was a little bit more visible, and then we just slowly somehow drifted. And also, obviously, you don't get the full view, but we're in my office at home. It's a very small office, and I got a desk on wheels since we're able to move that around. But we're trying something new today.
Yeah.
So today's the day of new things, new voices, new layout.
Perfect. Isn't everyone glad that they listen?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think, to kick off the episode today, I do think we do some celebration anticipation. So give me something that you are celebrating right now.
Celebrating right now, my future sister-in-law moved in to my house.
That's awesome.
So that's super fun. So we are roommates for the next 5 months, and then she's family after that. So
There you go.
yeah,
And
it's fun.
then she'll leave you.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm celebrating. I've seen my brother more in the last week than I think I have in the last 3 years. So that's been fun.
Hey, there you go. There's perks.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
I
This
know.
would be like the time to have this season of closure with your brother
Yeah.
before he gets married.
Yeah, I walked out two mornings ago, like 6:30 in the morning to go on a walk. Walk out there. He's just in my driveway. I was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Driving her to work." I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're
Matt-
everywhere."
I know Matt gets a lot of mentions, but he's worthy of mentions on the podcast.
Yeah.
Just driving her to work.
Mhm.
God,
Yeah.
Matt, you are goals,
Yeah.
my friend.
Yeah. He's the best. But yeah, what are you anticipating right now?
I think honestly with the summer bucket list, we talked about it a little bit, but it has like this extreme perk in the sense that like it gives us clarity and intentionality about like what we're going to be doing next. So it's kind of like, okay, we have like this list of things that we want to do with the kids, but it also puts a little pressure on it because there's a lot of things left. But I do think that it's built like this rhythm of celebration anticipation in our home. And so right now, we're anticipating Medora in a couple weeks. So we had our trip rained out a month ago or whatever. And so we got it back on the schedule, and we're going with all of my family, including my brother and sister-in-law, nephew, my parents. And so really looking forward to that. Medora has a very sweet spot in my life in the sense that my grandma took me there, and my grandma and grandpa before that even took all of the grandkids there. That was just like the kind of the summer thing. And so I grew up going almost every summer. And so my kids have never been. And so I'm really looking forward to that. And so that's just one of many things. We still have climb a tree on our bucket list. So looking forward to Rowan climbing that tree, but also it's kind of fun because we just have like these little moments, big moments, and everything in between. So there's a lot that we're looking forward to. Summer is like 3.5 weeks away from being over in the sense of kids going back to school and stuff. So trying to get it all in.
Yeah. It's fun. It's fun to look at the kids making a summer bucket list because I feel like what we think of as a bucket list is like the things that you've always wanted to do that are like crazy and big dreams and goals.
By definition, it's like before you kick the bucket. So,
Right.
It is kind of that. We've just kind of scaled it down a little bit.
Like it's so simple. Like you guys got shaved ice from Kinsley's favorite place in town, and it was like, yeah, it doesn't need to be crazy,
Good old vampire penguin. It's shaved ice, and yeah, honestly, that has been one of the biggest things. It's almost been a way to take this whole idea of celebration, anticipation, and what we're trying to do on the podcast is like bring that closer and closer to your everyday life, because I think we've seen the benefit of it. Of one, the kids' anticipation meter is very high, sometimes almost too high, but that's okay. I would rather have it that way. But just as we approach like a weekend or an evening, the kids are saying like, can we do something? Can we do something? And so we've actually had to be really intentional about like putting them on the calendar and actually thinking through when do we want to do these things. But it's definitely been that reminder of like the amount of celebration these last few weeks in just the little things, whether it was vampire ice cream or vampire penguin or mini golf. Like the kids added mini golf. We do mini golf every summer, but this summer wasn't just mini golf. It was like we did the thing that was on the bucket list. So it's been good. But we I know I mentioned it at the beginning of last week of the episode, but we've got our workshop coming up. We're going to talk more about that. It's the Main Things workshop. And so really talking about core values, living them out. But today for the episode, what I want to do is talk about finding your main things. And just as a spoiler, like part of the workshop is this exercise, not this exercise, but is going through our lives and thinking about what are the things that are most important. What are the main things? What are the core values that keep us aligned, keep us grounded, keep us moving in the right direction? And my realization is that most people do not and have not taken the time to do this. Most people haven't actually named them, haven't given them definition, haven't given them meaning, so that when life happens, they have these like core things that their life can grab hold of. And it just leads to a lot of drift. It leads to a lot of decision fatigue of, I don't know how to make this decision, because we're always starting at ground zero. And so what would you say in just your life in general, kind of defining your values and having your values, how has that impacted Megan?
Yeah, it's been huge. I feel like just seeing, like you just said, the decision making, really keeping everything in line with what I actually value and what's important to me. But I'd say the biggest thing that it helped me get language for was things that would upset me or things that I would get really excited about. Like, I didn't understand why I would get upset about something, but most often it is like stemming from a value of like, ooh, that's making me lose time with my family, or that is not intentionality, or that was always a big one, was like, why would I get frustrated with someone when they like wouldn't think about this? And it's because I really value intentionality, and that,
like in a friend circle or in like a work setting or something.
Yeah. And so it helped me get language for things like what I was feeling or what mattered to me in a moment, instead of just being angry or just being upset or something like that. It was like, oh, this is because it's going against a value, or it's rubbing against one. Like it's not keeping it in line as the main thing. But I didn't know that because I didn't know what my value was. I think we all have values. We just don't always realize what they are. And so then we kind of float through life and just say, I don't know, like just get frustrated easily, or try to prioritize some things, and if we get to it, we get to it. But we all, I think, have things that kind of keep us centered to who we are.
Yeah. Well, I think there's this idea for me of main things. It's just because there's so much going on. It's like juggling, and like my life feels like that a lot, of just like there's a lot of juggling. And I'm not a rarity in that. Everybody feels that, whether it's kind of personal relationships and their work, and their faith and their hobbies and all these different things that make up our life. Yet without this definition of main things, it kind of whatever is most pressing, whatever is most urgent, whatever is today is what kind of tends to come to the top as most important. And I think it's something that I've observed in a lot of people when it comes to faith. Why is it that faith is kind of utmost important, for instance, in college, for a lot of college students that find faith in college, that find Jesus in college, that are a part of a college community and ministry? And sometimes what ends up happening is there's this drift in that part of their life, because work is added, family is added, that community is, maybe they're uprooted from that community. They have kids, like all of the things. Now we buy a house and there's money at different degrees. Like I remember being in college and like having to spend $100 on something felt like just shoot me in the face. Like just now we got like our mortgage bill and I'm like, that's every month. Oh, that's crazy, you know?
Uh-huh.
But it's just like the responsibilities grow. And I don't, what I've realized is that I don't think a lot of the students that I'm thinking of wanted their faith to become less vibrant and less alive. I don't think they wanted to become more cynical or skeptical about the things of God. I think something between there and there happened. And I think one of the things that protects against that is by really not only kind of having them vaguely, but knowing them and then taking them and saying, okay, how am I going to protect these and use these to protect the life that I feel God has called me to? And so I think that's my case for main things. My case for core values is simply like it's protection against drift. It's protection against the inevitable pull and tug from world's responsibilities and the things that are required of us as we grow up and that are required of us as we mature. And I do think that core values can change, but I think more often than not, they change because environments change. They change because our reactions kind of drift in that way. Thoughts? What do you think about that? Because you are a little bit more, you're in your mid 20s. I'm in my mid 30s, right? Your mid 20s? Yeah, I was going to say, okay.
I was waiting to hear how old if you give
I'm
your
not
exact
ashamed.
age.
I'm not ashamed of 35. I feel like
That was so funny. I'm not ashamed of 35.
I don't think we've ever talked about it on the podcast, but I am surrounded by, not surrounded like closely, but there's people in my life that really don't like getting older, that like birthdays are like, oh, don't talk about my birthday. Well, I don't know. I'm like, I like the fact that I'm getting older. I think it's a pretty natural part of life.
Right.
And so I'm just going to lean into it instead of avoiding this unavoidable. But I also, just the new things that it brings to life. So, sorry, that's just a side tangent. Okay.
What was your question?
Just your thoughts on the protection side of it and like that drift of kind of that. There's a lot of things in life that are important, and then they aren't as important anymore, but they should be.
Yeah. Well, I feel like, especially in my season of life, where just a young adult and you're kind of figuring everything out. This is the time for me to figure out what I value. And if you're not careful, like everything just kind of snowballs, like you said. Like eventually you'll get married, you'll have kids, you'll buy a house, like your life will just keep going no matter what. And so if you can figure out, like kind of pause on the road and be like, okay, is this the direction I want to keep going? Is this everything that's aligned? It makes me just think through, like, we've been talking a lot about our schedules and just the summer and how that's going, and values help dictate how you plan your calendar. And is everything on your schedule something that you value or something that would bring life to that or help you live it out? And so I think that that's really interesting. I think also in my season of life as young adult, post-grad, like you're dealing with all those things that the habits you form now are what will be your life later. Yeah. And so the habits I form with spending, with friendships, with work-life balance, all of that is like forming me into who I will be. And values help me figure out, am I being formed into who I want to be, not just inevitably will become,
Yeah. And 10 years ago, it was on a road trip to Montana that I actually sat down to do this for the first time. And so I was 24, 25, and we were in our first year of marriage, maybe second year of marriage. And it was, again, long road trip. I had a book. This was part of the book, was identifying your core values. And I sat down and did that exercise and left with 7 values. And I've wrestled over the years and still wrestle a little bit of like, there's a couple things that I feel like weren't present in my life or weren't defined in my life. And then as a family, just kind of how that shifts and shapes. And we've taken time to do that on the family level. But like those 7 words are still very core. And some of them were faith-oriented, Jesus-centered, family-focused, people-driven. And some of them were more I don't know how to describe it, but like authentic, passionate, teachable, joyful. And each of those things, though, had a reason for kind of coming to the surface. And over the last 10 years, they've been really like defenders of who I am, who I'm called to be. We've lived a little bit of life over the last 10 years, moved across the country, moved back across the country. We've shifted jobs. We've started businesses. We've made decisions about kids in school and where they go. And so I think a lot of that, to me, all those decisions somehow would have had to be made. But I think for us, having more definition of these things has allowed us to make decisions more confidently, and trust the Lord in it, in those things, because passionate, for instance, like, because that's a value of mine, because like I have realized that this isn't something that everybody shares, so it's core to me. Is I get excited about things. I get, like Mark Batterson talks about what makes you pound your fist on the table, what makes you cry. And just realizing that some of those things are the things that I've gravitated towards and I've kept room in my life for, even when life tried to squeeze them out, in a sense of, have a normal life, do this, you don't have time for this. I've always just made the time for it because it was important to me. So I just want to share a couple just more defined whys, reasons, and then we're going to play a game. Just a little game.
Fun.
Not a big game, but a little game. So I'm excited as we just kind of tease this out and talk about it. So let's talk about the first kind of big reason. We've talked about it a little bit, but what's the first why?
First why is they simplify your decisions. So they make making a decision that is aligned with who you are and who you want to be easier.
Yep. Again, it's that filter. Is this aligned with me being authentic? For me, that's one of mine. Being real. I really struggle in environments where I have to really be political about how I come off or how I come across. And maybe I can do that. Like, I've realized, like, I'm wired as a relational person, and part of that you recognize who you're with. So there's some positive to it. But whether it's career or whether it's like something to really put a lot of time and effort to, if it goes against that, the decision is way easier. Like, that's just, I've come to that one a lot of like, man, that isn't who I am. And it's going to be very difficult to be satisfied and whole in that environment. So number 2 is they shape your calendar. Your schedule begins reflecting your priorities instead of your availability. I just think when we have those values listed, we now have, it's as simple as when we do our marriage meeting, we do this subconsciously, but we've been doing this for 10 years now, where when we schedule our big rocks, when we schedule the things that are movable, we start with, of course, school calendars and things that we have zero control over. I mean, we could homeschool our kids, I guess, but the next thing we do is date nights, and we put the family part of it before we put the friend part of it. We put those things on the calendar so that they don't get missed. So anything to add to that one?
No, I just think I've seen it play out in my own life too, when I'm not making it through my priorities. Something else that I wanted to touch on too, which was just like your values. They make things simpler, but it's not always the easy decision to like live them out. And so sometimes what you value, like, is just hard to actually live out with other people and expectations in your life. And so,
well, that brings it to a whole nother point, that I think we can build into, but it's this whole idea of like family values is one thing. When I live in the same house, like, it's important that we share the same values, but I think it's important whether you in friendships or in singleness, like the people that you're spending time with, you don't have to have aligned values, but if your values are not aligned, you're going to have issues. And I think I've seen it time and time again. People date people that it's obvious to everybody from the outside, like, you guys just don't share the same values. Like, your main things are very different. And so I do think that this is a great thing to do with community, with friends, like to do this, sit down, not to say like these are our shared values, but what are our values and how do they align? How are they different? How is that positive? And then how is that affecting us negatively? Because different values sometimes make a more complete whole too. You know, on a team, it's helpful to have people that have different values, but at the end of the day, that alignment is important.
Yeah. Sorry, not a random tangent, but just a
Yeah.
tangent that I was like, wait, this isn't as easy as I think
Right.
I wish it was, but yeah.
For sure.
Okay, what are some other whys?
Number 3 is they create confidence. You know, you stop needing everyone else's approval because you know your why and you know who you are and you know what is most important. And so there's going to be times that kind of a values driven life brings you again into conflict with the people that you're around. And sometimes that can cause us to like second guess ourselves. That can cause us just thinking in relationships. You know, if I value faith, like if that's my top value, and this really attractive person that somebody's dating is faith isn't even close to their top, but they have a great personality. They share similar hobbies. I've heard this from so many young adults and college students. Like we just really get along. We like a lot of the same things. We like the same music. We, you know, laugh at the same jokes. That value, if that's your top value and it's not close to theirs, you're going to really have a hard time. And so it's the confidence to say like, I really enjoyed this person, but I know that this isn't God's best for me in this season of life and at this time. Like maybe God will work in their life, but it gives us that confidence to go, okay, like I know who I am. I know who God's calling me to be. I know where he's leading me, and this doesn't line up, even if I want it to, it's somewhere in me.
Yeah. Yeah, it also gives your family shared language, which I think I saw maybe one of the first examples of this with hanging out with you guys years ago when your kids, I'm going to throw them under the bus, but when your kids would be arguing, throw them. But Taylor would just say, hey, Gloucesters are kind. You're a kind person. That was not nice. Gloucesters are kind. And it was just like reinforcing this value in your home that like this is who we are and this is how we live out our life. And so it gives your family just a shared language.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've chosen to kind of choose values as a big filter of our discipline. And so instead of always, and we come at behavior at times, but instead of it just being about the behavior, it's about the breach of a value that we as Glossers embody, you know? And so it's allowed us to discipline what we see as a higher level of like, it's not just like, don't hit your brother. It's like, no, kindness is a huge part of who we are. Do you think that was kind? Like just being able to ask that question based on the value allows them to come to their own conclusions way faster. And so, but yeah, that shared language is big. Number 5, it reveals drift, or they reveal drift. They become a compass that tells you if you're off course. And again, time and time again, this is part of my reflection rhythm is when I'm journaling, especially on like my year-end reflection and kind of midway through the year. Taylor and I always do kind of a getaway at our anniversary. It's the end of May. And one of the things that I do is I take my core values and I just basically like, how am I doing in honoring this and in living this out, whether it's joyful or authentic or passionate, like how am I doing it? And so it gives me an opportunity to catch like where I am drifting, and it gives a little bit more definition to like what drifting can look like for me.
Yeah, values, they also reduce regret. And so you start measuring life by faithfulness, not just productivity. And so, I think you just make choices that you're more content with, I think.
Yep. Yeah, and ultimately they build an intentional life. We stop reacting to life and we start partnering with the Holy Spirit to build the life that he's calling us to build and aligning our lives with the one he desires us to have. And so I would say those are some of the reasons. I would love to hear just kind of, what really stands out to people, because I think the struggle again is this gap. It's like, I think if we were to poll 100 people, all of them would say like values and value-based living and having priorities in life is big. It's important. But then how many of you have actually written them out, how many know them, how many have you written somewhere that you can see visibly in your everyday life. That number is very low. And so I hope that some of these reasons help people say, like, man, I want to actually start to align and to live and to recognize those things because they have a purpose. But now what we're going to do is just play a little mini game, just a short little mini game. It's not going to take much of your time, listener.
I feel like we need like some game show music.
Game show music. I can see what I can do. But I believe, maybe this is arrogant, but I think that with some clues, I can play detective work and identify people's values pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the game is, if somebody were to walk in this room with just some clues, we could figure out what their values are. Do you think it's actually possible?
Yeah.
Taylor, come. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
That'd be so fun.
It'd be so fun.
We should have been more thoughtful. I had like 8 people come in. But we're going to go through some of these clues, little detective work of, if I were to sit down with you, I could identify your values. And so therefore you can too, based on these things. The first clue is your calendar. It's where does your time naturally go? So like not your ideal version, but where your time is actually going. That gives me a clue of what's most important. So if work is on that calendar from 7 to 10, if, in the evening, if your mornings are spent at the gym, like I can at least start to think through and identify what is most important, what they value.
Yeah, that's good. And it's not like what you have written down. It's what you're actually living. Like if we could follow you around for a day or a week.
Megan's going to stalk you and then she will tell you. And again, sometimes what's helpful is us understanding that the things that I value aren't the things that I want to value. Like the things that my life naturally values isn't maybe what I've desired. It's just we're trying to help you identify what it is that you're actually valuing right now. But what's the second clue?
Second one is your bank statements. So what are you spending your money on? And I feel like we'll step on toes with that one, but I think it is very telling. It's just like, what do you prioritize in spending? And what are some habits? And sometimes spending, like, your bank statement could say like, oh, you eat out a lot, but a lot of that is with friends or it's with community. And so that tells us something, not just that you eat out a lot.
For sure. And it's not just about like generosity, like the person that has a lot of nonprofits and church, like that obviously shows that value, but it's also in other things as well. Some people value entertainment and even from like sometimes what's cool is that you can identify like something that maybe is a pastime to another person is a passion for me, and our bank statements can actually show that. And then other times it shows us like, oh, I don't want that to be the thing that I value the most. But number 3 is what makes you angry. And so I do think that anger often reveals violated values, that we don't all get angry about the same exact things. There's some general things. That's why I think taking things from like value to the core values to like the main things is important, because if we just all took everything that Jesus taught on, like those are our values, that's true, but that's our value system. But what are the core values that really ring true with us as individuals? And again, you can see this in whether it's people like I know my friend Paul or my friend Brent that are in justice movements and that they are on the front edge of those things. Like and I'm convicted by them in how they respond to the world around them. But again, that shows them their values in a higher degree as well.
Yeah, that's good. Number 4 is what moves you. So what consistently stirs your heart? What, makes you want to cry? What makes you passionate? What you said earlier, like what makes you want to pound your fist and do something about, what kind of stirs you to want to take action?
I think Taylor and I have realized that we have different responses to different like Instagram reels or TikToks. Like she'll send one to me or I'll send one to her. And typically we this is just something we've done, is like we like them for each other so that we can look at them together and we can laugh, and it's a lot of fun. But sometimes I'll go on a streak of like things that are emotional to me and they're not to her, and it's just a revealer again for me. One of them, and I'm trying to kind of put words to it, is it's happened in the weirdest environments, in the weirdest places, but somebody that like is living their dream and is like pursuing it just really gets me going. I think it's probably the passionate part, but it's just something that like I'll cry at a kid singing the national anthem. I'm like, they really did it. And I'm like, but I didn't necessarily cry at my wedding. And Taylor's like, what's going on there? It's not because I don't value my marriage, but it's just something that's revealing something to me. So number 5 is who do you admire? I think there's people in our lives that we really admire, that we really look up to. I think more often than not, it's the values that they are embodying that we admire. It's, the friend of mine who's just a really great dad. Well, it's his patience that I really admire, and it's his intentionality, and he recreated his life not around his family in an unhealthy way, but like he just recognized like work isn't as important as my family is. I'm going to downshift my workload and my hours, even if it costs me something, so that I can be with my family more. And to me, that just like was so attractive, so admirable, so like desired in my own life.
Yeah, that's good. Number 6 is, what do you fiercely protect? So time, traditions, relationships, and rhythms. So what are you guarding, making sure it's a priority? What are like the big rocks in your life that are immovable for you?
Yeah. If you are spending a lot of time defending them, protecting them, it's time to probably name it and define it. What is that causes you to protect that, causes you to resist attacks at that? And then the next one is, the 7th clue is your greatest regrets. They reveal what you wish had mattered more. I think a lot of times our regrets are the biggest regrets that we have are typically violations of those values, and they are like that we've done to ourselves. And so it's when we haven't chosen our family over work. It's when we let a friendship drift and we drove a wedge into a friendship that over something small in the grand scheme of things. It's when we choose a career path that doesn't align with the one that we felt a call to or a tug towards because of a bigger paycheck, and we get there and we're like, man, I don't even want this. So I think it always speaks to those. And so I think with these don't like declare your values, but they point towards them. These clues are something that can point us towards what is most valuable. So I'm just curious, if you're listening today, like, and you walked through these clues, and if you actually do that, like, what is it that really stood out to you? What is it that really grabbed hold of you? And the next step is to actually sit down and to write them out.
Yeah, that's so good. And your life is being shaped by your values. And so it's just an important reminder that we're all valuing something, and whether we realize it or not. And so sometimes just admitting it is the first step, and sometimes can be the hardest step. So doing the work, sitting down and figuring out what is my life saying about it right now is really helpful.
That's why I'm so excited for the Main Things workshop. That's really what we're going to be doing, is we're going to sit down. It's 2 hours designed to help people kind of identify their core values, identify their main things, but we're going to take it a few steps farther. We're not just going to identify them, we're going to define them, and then we're going to talk about what does it look like to live them out? Like, what does it look like to not just have this on a sheet of paper on our wall somewhere that maybe we can look at it and remind ourselves, but how do we actually like bake these values into the bread of our life in how we live, how we act, what decisions we make. And so I'm so excited to have some people that are willing to say, hey, like, I want to actually define my values. I want to actually start to live them out. I want to come against the things that are attacking at them with intentionality. So August 4th, it's a Tuesday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. And to sign up, stevenglosser.com/events. We'd love to have you at the Main Things workshop.
Yeah. love to see you there.
Absolutely. And so thanks again for listening to this episode. In future episodes, we've got some fun stuff. We're going to talk about keeping the main thing, which is kind of an introduction to how do we actually bake these into our lives. We've got an interview with a guy named Doug Weckenman. He's a pastor at Red Rocks Church in Austin, Texas. And he just wrote a brand new book about making decisions in your life. And it's so good. And so I'm so excited to introduce you to him. And Zach Bowermaster. Zach is a principal. He went viral a number of years ago for just giving kids high fives. And we're going to talk about why that was, because we all learned about him being who he was. Like, he wasn't doing it for attention. They uploaded like the security footage of his school, and he went viral, and he has almost 1 million followers, and he's been invited into all these incredible spaces, and he's going to be on the podcast with us, and it's going to be so much fun. So tune in to future episodes, subscribe so that you don't miss a single thing, and we'll see you real soon on the Everyday Adventure Podcast.